Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the stream today. Before we dive in, go ahead and like, follow, and subscribe on the platform that you're watching this on right now. Your support helps me keep doing what I love, creating content that inspires, teaches, and entertains. Make sure you turn on your notifications so you never miss when I go live. Let's get into it and have some fun.
And welcome. It is Thursday. I had to look at the clock and make sure that we were on the right night. But welcome everybody to Thursday night's Good Game Rewind. And I'm really excited to have this amazing guest on. We've had great guests this week, but I'm super excited as we are winding down the week. I'm looking at my show notes, so I don't want to miss a beat with what I'm saying here. But uh I can't say enough about this one person because when I first started to work in this space, this is one of the people that I reached out to. And I started following him when he was doing, I don't even know if he remembers this, but he was doing a lot of posts on STEM and ed tech through all of his email blogs. I don't know if this person, I don't know if you even remember that, but I caught some of his stuff on what was then Twitter, now X, and I subscribed to his emails and I started reading some stuff. And then I don't even know how we connected there. We probably Steve Isaacs. Say his name, you take a drink. But his impact in esports is truly unmatched. He's one of the reasons why I actually entered the esports space in the first place, and I have had the privilege of really working alongside him and supporting his organization as it I don't even say as it continues to grow. I mean, it's beyond growing. I mean, it's growing leaps and bounds. Chris Aviles, who is one of my dearest friends, is the founder of Garden State Esports. And it's one of the largest scholastic esports in the country. And it's a national model proving that esports can be about belonging, skills, and community, not just competition. Chris took a passion project and turned it into a statewide movement. And that's speaking very like he's done more than just a statewide movement. He's created pathways in broadcasting, production, engineering, media, leadership, and even social emotional learning. And what I love about my friend Chris is that he is an educator first and foremost. Well, scratch that. He is a husband, he is a dad, he is an educator first and foremost. Let's put that there. Let's speak that with transparency. But he's also very honest, very practical, and he's deeply committed to building systems that are sustainable, inclusive, and rooted in real opportunities, especially for students who don't always find their place in traditional school settings or activities. He's someone I consider definitely a mentor, practically because of the way he ensures that Black and Brown students feel seen, supported, and empowered to grow and thrive in this space. And so I'm so honored that he's here talking with me tonight. And so here he is, Mr. Chris Aviles to the rewind. Yay, Chris.
Wow, man, that was legit. I
Was it legit?
appreciate the kind words.
I guess I've been putting people on. You got okay. So for real, the people who are on here, especially you're uh, you're one of my out of everybody that's on here. Everybody has meant really so much to me, but you were one of the people that are even closer to me than more ways than one, and when I write these things out, I really truly do mean what I say, even though I do have to use Grammarly and all those kind of things. But like you especially, it's really hard to find someone that even closely looks like me in this space. There's only very few of us. And so when I first like I said, reached out and didn't even know who you were from Adam, looking at your blogs and all that kind of stuff, and then you jumping into the esports space, and then really connecting with you even more. I was like, okay, this is where it's at. Like, y'all don't understand the relationship that we have. Like, even though we don't see each other that often, like when we do see each other, it could be team too much, y'all. Like, we get to we get like he's teaching me how to be. I'm not teaching him how to be a Texan in any way because I don't even know what that means. But he's really teaching me how to be a Jersey person, and I don't even know what that means. Like he'll sit there and argue with me, and I'm sitting here arguing back like I'm from Jersey, which I still don't know what that means.
Mm.
But like, it's really a true love and respect. He's really taking me under his wing, and I'm telling you guys, like every time I go out and I'm in spaces and I'm like, you guys need to connect with Garden State Esports, with Chris Aviles. If you want to have a legitimate program, get in contact with him. Don't worry about the flash. Don't worry about the Hollywood stuff. That's not what Chris is about. He is about what I just talked about just now. So I hate to put you on a pedestal. No, I don't hate to put you on a pedestal. Like, I want to put you on that pedestal, that platform, because you deserve all the flowers that you get. You are an amazing person. And I can't go and say all the other conversations that we have because that's private. But, but like, dude, like, I am so happy that you're here. I'm so happy
No,
that you're here.
I'm happy to be here, and from coming up Jersey, the more and louder we yell at you, the more we like you. So
And that
yeah,
is true. Like every time I meet, like he's sitting there yelling at me. God, I almost cussed. See, this is like I'm trying to keep it cool. But like he comes up, he starts yelling at me. I'm like, what's your problem? And then we walk away like, okay, so what we doing? What we doing? Where we going to go eat? That's how it is. That's literally how it is. And I did not know that's how you supposed to act. So, but dude, like we can go on and on for hours, and I don't want to be all yelling and screaming. My kids are in their 20s. He has little ones, so I'm not trying to get all loud and cussing and fussing. I can do that here. I don't think he can yet until his kids are in their 20s, but I digress. um, I want to know how you got started into this space in general. I touched on the whole blogs and all that stuff. Do you even remember doing all that?
yeah, man. I mean, in a big way, um, realizing what esports not just meant to what I wanted to do and accomplish, but also what it meant to the kids. I gave up all that blogging. I gave up everything. So when I started Garden State Esports, I hadn't written a blog since I started it. And,
That's
it's
crazy.
yeah, I mean, because the blog was doing really well, but when
It was.
so right, the origin story of Garden State Esports is take a drink. Steve Isaacs and I during COVID, we started this esports league, and he had a video game club, so I invited him to play my kids, and he invited some other people who invited other people who invited other people, and by the end of COVID, well, I shouldn't say the end, we didn't know it was going to end, but let's say by year 2 of COVID, we had about 100 schools in Jersey playing. And we started to hear from their parents, we started to hear from their teachers, administrators, like, hey, this is really, it means something to these kids. And so the big thing that we said was, when COVID is over, we want to find a way to get everybody who's been competing online for the last 2 years, let's get them into the same space, let's get them face to face, so they realize that there's real people that they've been competing against behind the computer. So we turned it into a nonprofit, so that way we'd be able to, we had this dream of like raising some money to be able to put on these events. Yeah, and that's kind of how we got started. But at the time, I mean, I think you were in a similar boat to me. Is I had that blog, I was doing a ton of work for Google, going around and doing training and stuff like that. And then COVID put a hold on, obviously the trainings, and I compare the world of ed tech and kind of that kind of stuff pre-COVID, post-COVID, man. Because like pre-COVID, ISTE was amazing, and ed camps were thriving, and like there's
Yeah.
these, just everything was so you can go and have like these really great, meaningful professional development sessions. Everything wasn't always led by a vendor and stuff like that. It was like really
Mhm.
awesome. Um, and then when the blog probably should have been doing even better during COVID, I think I posted once and then I never posted again because all my time and energy went into Garden State Esports. And, like I said, the dream of funding a face to face still hasn't happened. I wound up paying for the first 2 years out of my own pocket.
I
Um,
remember we
yeah,
had those
just
conversations.
right, just to make that happen. So, I mean, it really, it really, outside of obviously my kids, is like the greatest thing I've ever created in my life. You know what I mean? So, uh, the amount of pride and time and energy and sacrifices I make to make sure, especially in the early days, that the league, was what we wanted it to be.
Mhm.
It was a lot, and now I'm very lucky that I got a team of 26. I'm the only one not in the classroom anymore, but I got a team of 26 educators, many of whom I've known for a long time: Regina Schaefer, Alyssa Miller.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I've known them forever. Mark Siegel. Um, and now we all kind of carry that torch together because this has really become, um, the pride of a lot of folks over here. And so it's
Yeah.
it's amazing. For hearing from the kids and hearing from the parents is one thing, and even hearing from the coaches is another thing. But even among my leadership team,
Mhm.
like the fact that we would all kind of like lay down and die for what we've created, and the fact that like I've found like-minded people who really, if I died tomorrow, they can run the league, they can carry the league forward.
Yeah.
Like they understand what it's supposed to be about. Like they see it, they see the code of the matrix. I mean, it's really been something special. And so we're really proud of what we do over here, and we work very, very hard to make it as good as it is.
What made you said like aside from the
Right.
COVID thing, but what made you say, "All right, I'm really going to go full fledged into this because like we both been in this space for a
Right.
long time. I mean, you really took it head on, but what made you say, you know what? I need to pause on the Google or the ed tech stuff, and I really see something here. So I'm really gonna somewhat put all my eggs into one basket and really grow this out. What made you say
Yeah.
this is it?
Well, I mean, so it's interesting is there's more to the story that I generally tend not to share because usually, when you're doing panels and stuff like that, nobody wants the whole story. They want like the cliff notes, right? And so part of I guess the, you know, part of what people don't know usually is I actually started to try to bring esports to the high school I was working at in 2011.
Mhm.
And it's after I went to, so I was a big StarCraft guy, StarCraft 2 guy. I went to MLG down in Atlantic City, because, I never kind of interacted with a game like I did like StarCraft 2, right? So I remember going to like the Team Liquid webpage and they had Korean streamers and like, Twitch wasn't really around then. I would watch like Boxer and stuff like that. And, I just really enjoyed watching good people play StarCraft 2, right? And so when MLG came to town, which, one of my friends told me, right, who I played StarCraft with.
Yeah.
So I went down to Atlantic City, MLG was there, had no idea what MLG even was. And so I was 2011, I would have been teaching about 9 years. So I was maybe in my late 20s.
Mhm.
And I remember walking into Atlantic City, walking into Harris, sitting down in the arena, and all of a sudden, like the announcers come on and they're just high energy. And then the lights go up, and then all of a sudden, like the entrance music starts, and like here come these nerds to come play StarCraft 2. And I just remember thinking with my teacher hat on, right? Because I've played and coached football and wrestling, my entire teaching career. And, nobody debates the value of sports, right? Nobody debates what that provides for kids, right? It's a meaningful after school activity. And I can tell you, I've learned as much about life on a wrestling mound as I've learned in any classroom, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember sitting there and seeing these, these people coming out to play the game and the announcers. And I just thought to myself, I said, like, half of the kids that I teach who are completely like disengaged with everything except gaming, because that was like the major way I built relationship with kids. What are you playing? Here's what I'm playing. You want to play me? Bring your Xbox in. Come into
Yeah.
lunch. You guys can play, right? I just remember thinking like so many kids would love to participate in something like this. because even from the work I was doing back then in gamification, we knew that there was a type of kid who was just a warrior. They just loved to compete.
Yeah.
They, whether it was for grades or whatever it was, like that's how they defined who they were as in competition. And it didn't have to mean physical sports,
Yeah.
right? It could just been in general. And after leaving MLG, I went back to my high school and I said, look, I have this idea. Like, what if we, started this club? And for a while, like the issue was we had no devices, right? Everything obviously, was the scam that Chromebooks are, and we have Chromebooks and cool, yay, they dismantled the computer lab. And then eventually, right, I remember like we started, I think like a CAD program or something. So maybe you're talking 2013, 2014. And so they had some decent computers that you can run some games on if you really needed to. And then I remember, going to the principal, going to whoever and saying, hey, I have this idea for a club. I really think it would get a lot of kids involved who are just going home on the bus right now. And it was a no. And then I would go in front of the board of ed and I would get shot down every time. But what I would do is every time they gave me the reasons why violent video games make violent kids. Do we really want kids on more screen time? Do we really want, these loner type of kids doing their loner type of stuff in school now? I would write a chapter in what eventually became the book that Steve and I and Jesse Lubinsky and Christine Lyon Bailey wrote. My section was mostly drawn from all of the, because I would, okay, well, hey, here's the studies and the meta studies that show, violent video games don't make violent kids. It's actually the opposite here. Well, nobody ever reads it anyway, because it's a very, emotional opinion. If you believe that, right, no amount of science and data and studies is going to make you change your mind.
Right.
So then I would go to the next thing. Okay. As somebody who coached football and coached wrestling and one of the things I would do eventually when I finally got the ability to start an esports team is like on Mondays, I would take my kids to the weight room and I would show them how to lift weights and exercise. Right. And that was born from, well, do we really want more kids playing video games, want more screen time? I said, okay, I'm going to dedicate an entire day to physical fitness. And it turned out a lot of those kids, they were nervous or worried about, participating or lifting in gym class. But when they were with their fellow friends in a safe place, like they were willing to learn. And so a lot of the kids enjoyed working out. Yeah. Or, we would do touch grass type of stuff where they had to, talk about their value outside of gaming and, who they are as a son, who they are as a friend, what they hope to achieve. And, we would talk about like, you should go for a walk before bed or something like that. You should unplug the game an hour before you go to sleep because blue light, makes you stay awake. Right. So for 2011 until the year before COVID, which I think 2019, right, it was no's across the board. I finally left the school district. I went to a district called Fairhaven. Still the greatest human I've ever worked for. My superintendent at the time, Superintendent McNeil, Sean McNeil just said, I walked into his office. He goes, I don't understand what you're talking about, but I know that you're excited. And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Just don't make sure I'm not surprised, right? Don't let me be caught off guard by anything.
Take me everything through step by step.
Right. Let me know what's going on and let me know what you're going to be doing. And, so I wound up using the computers that I had for my STEM class, my maker space. And after school, we played some Rocket League. And, we really, if you go back and you can even find it on our YouTube, the first esports match I ever played was actually against Rutgers University because there was literally nobody for us to play. Yeah. So I remember like even before Steve and I played, probably 6 months later, I couldn't find anybody. And it wasn't until basically right before COVID, I got into the match with Steve and then COVID hit. And then, we did it once and got the computers home with the kids and we just kept participating. And then from there, the rest, as they say, is history. So it's one of those things that like, I had to fight for it for a long time. It took 8 years. It took literally 8 years to finally get a yes to start an esports team. And now we have more than half the schools in New Jersey playing in our league.
It's really crazy. I mean, my story is not as it is somewhat similar to yours. Like I just remember just showing just a game in class, just in that first spark. And I think I said this earlier this week, that first spark of students turning around and looking at the game and then looking at me and then looking back and forth. Go, first off, they didn't realize that, oh, I play a game first off, yeah, I do
Mhm.
play a game. When I'm not grading papers, I'm playing a game.
Mhm.
And then that's when the engagement happened. And then when I got into the ed tech space, that is actually how I got an ed tech position, is because I showed a video game
Mhm.
to get my role. And I remember the comment. I'm saying it very loosely, but it was more of like, well, be careful with the violence, da 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 da. And it was Soul Calibur. I'll never forget. So I was trying to make sure that it was clean, but I was talking about Texas history within. I was making sure that there were appropriate characters or whatever. But like you, flashing forward, I think you were still in the teacher space.
Mhm.
I knew that I was gonna get those no's, and I felt that, let me be in the district spot. So it's amazing how far everything has come, up to the point to where, even, do you remember? I don't know if you had those conversations where, at the point where, when it was COVID, that you couldn't buy a console anywhere,
Mhm.
and they're like, why can we not buy consoles? My superintendent was seeking me out. I thought I was in trouble. I thought I did something wrong. I said, y- that's the way to communicate now. If you're not on a Discord or a chat or whatever, you're going to communicate through gaming. And they couldn't believe it. So, but I know you've taken it even a step further, to where it is, it's foundational, and you're in one of those places where it's just everybody is doing it. Of course, my state follows right after. You talk to Danielle all the time, and y'all have really critical conversations. But you've built something that's very large, and from a consulting perspective, what foundational elements make Garden State Esports model work when we sometimes see so many other programs kind of struggle? What do you think?
And it's interesting is a lot of my early team laughs at me when I say it now, because coming from varsity coach, wrestling, hyper competitive, when we started the league, I was so focused on competition
Mm.
and rolling out competition. And now I am so much less interested in competition and more around the other stuff that we can jam into it through competition, right? So, a lot of what we're doing when we think about competition is really the competition piece is that's where the social emotional growth of the kids come in, right? Winning and
Yeah.
losing, adversity, teamwork, leadership, right? That's pretty easy, self explanatory. Um, and a lot of that doesn't have to be necessarily worried about too much, right? If you create a competition, and part of one of the hats that I wear is basically being the athletic director, and making the schedule, making sure rival schools play each other, and making sure that competition's fair, right? That's one thing. But when you have two schools engage in competition, right, that adversity and that growth is going to happen. It doesn't take a lot, right? It's just setting the table, saying, hey, you're going to compete. It's going to be a 7-week season. We're going to take, the 25%, top 25% of the teams. You're going to go into playoffs, and you can play face to face for a state championship, right?
Mhm.
Just that small process is going to lead to the growth of kids. Um, what we have really focused a lot of energy on, number one, is just like a lot of common sense stuff. And that's why I always kind of laugh when people talk about, Garden State Esports is uh you know breaking the mold and stuff like that. Listen, we operate exactly like every other athletic program in the state of New Jersey. And that was that's a big part of what led to our success, is we follow the exact same schedule as the State Athletic Association. We have the same conferences, we have the same schools playing their rivals, right? So everything was copy and paste every other sport, right? And that also came with a purpose, right? When you talk about who comes out, and making sure black and brown kids have a place and stuff like that, since they game more than their white counterparts, right? A lot of that comes from just like that strategic piece of, we have matches in different games Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Mm.
Matches start at 3:30. You can't be part of the soccer team, right, and be part of the esports team. It has to be exactly what you do. So number one, you're closing the door in a way to traditional athletes, because overwhelmingly, at least in New Jersey, they're not leaving traditional sports to come to esports. So number one, the league is focusing on those kids that are just going home after school. Number two, for instance, we don't play Madden, we don't play FIFA, we don't play sports games because it's very likely that those kids are having their needs met by traditional sports, right? And
Okay.
so this is how we have about 12,000 kids that play with us throughout the year. This is how we've wound up having about half the kids in the league have never done anything at their school but esports, is
Mm.
because we cleared out a space for those kids. Those are the kids that we want, right? So we play games like Mario Kart and Overcooked. We don't play Call of Duty. We don't play Madden because those kids have their community. They probably have their friends that they play with. What I'm looking for is the kid who's gone home and is playing with strangers because nobody else, likes Street Fighter 6 like he does. And so to that end, the kids that we have coming out, right? And the number one thing that these kids report on every survey is that they have a new sense of belonging, right? The fact that they're joining something that, really means something to them, but also they're an important part of, right? Because again, we run it just like a traditional varsity sport here in New Jersey. We expect to
Mm.
have practices, we expect to have GPAs they need to maintain. When I was coaching, my kids would sign the same substance abuse form as the varsity athletes. We had the same rules where if you weren't in school by, whatever it was, 8 a.m. or 11 a.m., I forget what the cutoff was, but you couldn't participate. We always, nearly mandated having backups because if a kid didn't show up because he had the dentist, that next kid should go up, right? Because if you were at a sport and you didn't show up to practice, you didn't play. That was the same mentality we were trying to create for these kids. And it was a little bit harder because, again, a lot of these kids hadn't played traditional sports before. Um, but that's kind of the space that we started to clear, right? We had to make sure we had a fighting game every season because black and brown kids love to play fighting games, right? If
Yeah.
we're not going to play sports games, we definitely have to embrace the fighting community because the fighting game community is the most diverse community in gaming, right?
Yeah.
So making sure we had the right games, positioned seasonally, making sure that we don't change season to season the games that we play, or I'm sorry, year to year, the games that we play. We've played, Rocket League on Tuesdays in the spring for the last 7 years. So that way these kids know, oh, Rocket League's in the spring, League of Legends is the fall, Street Fighter 6 is in the winter. We are very reluctant to change anything that we create because that's how you help teams and schools build habits and expectations is okay, we know, when we're going to be playing, we know who's going to be playing, and then kids can prepare for that, right? And so to that end, like we're really excited that in our last survey, 89% of our kids said that they no longer game with strangers online. They either play with kids they met throughout the league or kids that they have on their own school esports team, right? So building that sense of community, again, competition was a small part of it. The community piece is where we put in a ton of effort and really thought through from every stakeholder's perspective. And I love surveys. We survey our league out the wazoo, and all of those data points around when we play, how we play. We have incredibly stringent forfeit rules, right? We had what do we have? We had a 4% forfeit rate this year after we got varsity status in the state of New Jersey and recognized as a governing body. We're like, we got to even do better. We instituted some new forfeit rules, and now our forfeit rate, I think, was less than 2%. And we had, I think, 3 of our 9 leagues had 0 forfeits in the entire, thing. And
Wow.
again, that forfeit thing goes back to every kid is expected to play. Every kid's expected to be where they're supposed to be. And from being a teacher, having high expectations and high standard leads to
Yeah.
right results. And so that's a big part, right? So going back to kind of like the question that started it all is the competition part isn't really that hard. We copy what the State Athletic Association does, but we then think about how do we create these amazing communities. And again, something as simple as I am always happy to admit when I was wrong. Members of my team wanted to add students to our league Discord. And I was against it from the beginning. I thought it was a terrible idea. I said, who wants to monitor them? But again, going back to that stat, like 89% of those kids and being able to watch, our student Discord has to be the most well-behaved place in Discord because there's 600 teachers also watching. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
But watching them say, hey, does anybody want to scrim tonight? Hey, does anybody want to team up and play some twos with me tonight? And so the fact that these kids, and we've had 0 issues in Discord, from the beginning, but it is easy to go in on any day of the week and see these kids interacting and sharing and building relationships. I mean, I was even blown away at our fall championship a few weeks ago. One of our players who graduated was dating a kid that she met through the league who is, from a school 2 hours away from her. But through our league and through what, they decided to start dating. Now she goes to school in North Jersey. And, to think that we're having this impact on these kids that goes far beyond gaming, right? Whether it's finding friends or finding somebody, like she did, the relationships that we're building, the fact that we have so many alumni coming back and coaching now, or we started a college league.
Yeah.
We have 32 of the 36 colleges in New Jersey, including Princeton and Rutgers playing with us. And that college league started because those kids who graduated, when they got to esports, programs, they're like, this ain't it. And they said, can you start a college league? And so now we have face-to-face. We have the only face-to-face college league in the country. Every match we play at the college level is face-to-face. But again, that's about building relationships. So I then send all my high schools and middle schools to go watch the college matches and to get a tour of the college and to meet, the college players and stuff like that. Because now you can have kids imagine what it's going to be like at the next level to go learn, study, and then be part of a college's gaming community in New Jersey. And so,
and they're setting that standard, like you just said. I don't mean to cut you off, but they're setting that standard and expectation. So when they go to said higher ed, and it's not there, they're coming from. I'm just gonna say it, like you've done this from middle school on up, and I know you're doing elementary stuff, but like they've done this for quite a long time, and then when they get to higher ed, they're like, wait a minute, like, what are we doing? No, we have you need to have a conversation at Garden State Esports. We need to build something here. Let's have a conversation. And I think that part is amazing because the kids are creating that pipeline. It's not necessarily you all. I mean, yes, you are a part of it, but it's like the kids are saying, in my words, not theirs, we need to create this pipeline because what we're seeing at the universities is not what we want. You've already planted something there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it came back is the biggest thing was, we're joining these college leagues, we're joining, these college matches, and the forfeit rate is 30, 40, 50%. Or there's esports arenas that are being built for millions of dollars at these colleges, and half the stage is empty because they're playing some college they never heard of in a different time zone somewhere else in the country. And,
are these kids saying this? I mean, I already know you know the stats, but are these kids coming to you saying like,
it's a lot of it was these kids coming and saying, wow, if we get to play a match, nobody comes and watches. Nobody, there's no energy around it, where they were coming from playing, a playoff in front of a couple thousand people. And so, just what they had experienced in high school wasn't quite what they were experiencing in college. And so, we've been working for 2 years now to try to, get that college league. And a lot of the other colleges still participate in the other college leagues, but overwhelmingly what they tell us is, look, these face-to-face matches in front of, fans and the high schools we send to watch, like this is the most exciting thing that we do. But again, I'm super strict and enforce, some of these crazy rules where every match starts with, like a team handshake. They walk on stage, they shake each other's hand. After the match, they shake each other's hand. I got into it with a college kid because I told him that, he won something and he, yelled out a curse. I said, hey, there's no cursing in this league. He goes, I'm 21 years old. I go, it's okay. This is my league. If you want to curse, go play in your league.
Right.
But while you're here, you are a representative, and you are a representative, and you have a role model. And as much as, again, the college kids are about the competition, I'm trying to remind them that you have 20 kids in the crowd that are deciding if your college program is where they want to end up. I want to come here?
That part.
And so obviously we have zero tolerance for toxicity, but even something positive where the kid hits an unbelievable shot or clutches a win, you still better not drop an F-bomb. You know what I mean? You still better not, go point at your opponent and stuff like that or flex on them, because that's not what we're doing. That's not what it's about. And it's like anything else. Is even back when I was a teacher and I had these same expectations when I was doing, I set up esports matches. My kids were playing England during the school day, colleges in England. The expectation was always, right, how you treat people matters, right? Winning and losing with class. And again, that's something that we try to, instill in our community. And you see it, I'm always impressed when I go back and I watch the videos, because when I'm running the events, I rarely get to watch the events. But when I go back and watch them, the amount of kids who high five and shake and hug after a match, or uh, I'm always impressed with, like, when a team wins a state championship, before they jump up. Well, I should say, after they jump up and hug each other, before they come and get the belt and raise it up, they go and hug the other team and they say, "Good game, man." And so it to me, that's important, right? How we treat each other matters, and that's something that we really try to drive home at every level that we do.
I believe that, and it's 100%. And I tell people all the time, like, especially in your case, um, and I don't know if you know this or not. I think you're one of the rare organizations that doesn't do the flash. I look at your video. It's nothing fancy, and I say that with love. I
Mhm.
say that with love, and I say that with respect, because everything that you lay down is, when I look at it, I'm like, this is a program. And I think what gets muddy in the waters is you have to have that flash and arena, the lights, the glamour. But I've been a part of your competitions. And again, I've seen your videos, and I, of course, obviously I don't see that, but what I do see is everything that you just talked about. Let's bring out the chairs, let's bring out the thousands of people to uh collaborate and share stories and have fun and be respectful and do all of those amazing things, because it's not about the flash. It's not about that. It's about coming together and being respectful, and in just showing everybody what we can do as a team. And I think you're one of the, I'm sure there's others out there. But I'm just piggybacking off you, because I always
Mhm.
say, like, if y'all want to see how this is done, you need to go and look at a video of Garden State Esports, because there is no, and I haven't seen any in a while, but there is no lights going everywhere. There is no smoke and mirrors. It's just the team is walking in, they have their jerseys, they're playing the game. There's people sitting in the chairs, and they're in schools, they're in universities, and that's where the magic is. And we get so stuck in all the stuff and in that competition mode that we forget all of that. And I wanted to ask you, like, making those hard decisions. I talked about this earlier this week, and I want to only talk about it for 2 seconds. You said in the beginning that, and I don't want to screw up your words, and I apologize if I do, that you don't let the actual sports people into your organization because they're already doing sports and they're knee deep in it. Um, Most people, when they start in the very beginning, they're like, okay, we just need to start. We want whoever can come in. Was that hard for you to make that decision of, you know what, if you're gonna do wrestling, if you're gonna do swimming, if you're gonna do football, baseball, cheerleading, whatever, that's fine, but realize that this is this over here, and you're gonna have to make that hard decision. Was that difficult for you to do? Was that difficult for the students to hear?
It was, I think it, well, first of all, I'll say this is everybody's welcome. And
Right.
the league, what we specifically do, and what was an easy decision, is we are not going to cater to kids who are having their cup filled elsewhere in schools.
Okay.
We are going to cater to kids who hate school. They don't want to go to school. They can't wait to leave school. And most likely enjoy gaming as their main form of escapism, if not their outright identity. And so to set up a league that caters to that type of kid, it was hard to figure out how to do it,
Mhm.
right? And I could do hours on game selection, game positioning, all that stuff, and how we pick the seasons and what we do and how we set the rules and everything. That was the hard part, was the actual, okay, how do we do it? But the decision to cater to the kid that just isn't having their needs met that was easy. And that's something that to this day is still our top priority. And there has been some really great unintended consequences, right? For instance, if half my league has never done anything at the school, that means the other half of the league has. And what we're attracting, again, is we don't see nor do we expect, or nor do we want kids to give up traditional sports to come play esports. But what I love is when I get that football player in the winter off season who doesn't
Okay.
do anything, when he joins the Overwatch team and he meets the other 2 or 3 kids on the team that just go home after school, and all of a sudden they would have never crossed paths, they would have never gotten to know each other, and all of a sudden they're like, you like Overwatch? I like Overwatch. You like Overwatch? I like. And next thing those are some of my favorite stories and emails, and we got videos, that schools have put together on our YouTube that explain just that. Like this brings together kids from different walks of life. Like one of our schools, Mercer County Tech, they talk about how there's the culinary kids. It's a like a CTE careers focused kind of school, right? There's the computer science kids, there's the graphic design kids, and everybody kind of just stays in their school. But esports is the only place where they cross pollinate. And now all of a sudden the cafeteria looks different. Now all of a sudden the hallway looks different. And so for me, right, that's a big part of it too, is if you're looking for ways to bring all kids from all walks of life together, esports and gaming is going to be it, dude. You preaching to the choir, but it's the universal hobby, right? You think about you go into a classroom, how many people like football, how many people are on the cheerleading team, how many people like anime, right? You're going to get 25% of this group of kid, 25% of that group of kid. You say, who likes gaming? You're going to get a majority of hands, right? What do they say? 98% of boys, 94% of girls play video games, right? It's the universal hobby. So if we can bring people together around a shared affinity of a game like Overwatch, where we see there's certain games that tend to bring diverse groups of people together, right?
Yeah.
Valorant is one, Overwatch is another. But again, that goes back to the game positioning that could talk forever about. But the idea, that we have this ability and to choose and create a space made for certain types of people. And I think after 7 years, have gotten very good at creating a space where we can kind of predict who's going to show up, right? There's a reason, like I said, we play fighting games every season on Wednesdays. We play Valorant, we play Overcooked, we play Mario Kart, we play Overwatch, again, very specifically, right? Overwatch and Valorant have some of the most diverse communities in all of gaming, right? It's a little known fact that I don't know if Riot ever shared it, but Valorant has almost half the player base is female, right? So that not have a game like that would be silly, because that's going to bring more girls out into the league. And then we started our all girls and marginalized genders league that brought even more of those out, those players out. So something like Mario Kart and Overcooked, right? Overcooked has been a huge success in our league, right? And I think you know what it is, right? It's that cooking game that they call it the divorce game because it gets so intense and stuff like that. But what we realized is obviously we want to offer the titles that could be played and scholarshiped at the college level, because even though some of the colleges at times don't seem like they want to create a pipeline, they're so difficult to work with. On our end, we're going to do what we can to create a pipeline toward the colleges. But then the other thing we realized is, right, even within gamers and gaming in our league, there's like different subsets of kids. Like there's some kids who don't want to be hyper competitive. They just want to meme around with their friends, right? So when you think about like Overcooked and you think about Mario Kart, we feature those titles as state level championship titles because it brings out a diverse group of kids, but it also is like a super fun memey game that is, not as competitive as like Valorant. It's not as competitive as like League of Legends, right? It's not as hyper, focused. The kids who play Overcooked, they show up for championships wearing a cooking apron and wearing a cooking hat, and
I would love to
oh,
see
dude, it's
that.
so good. And they're just like some of the most like ridiculous kids. Like, the whole, the team that won the state championship last year, their whole strategy was destruction and disruption. They never made a meal of their own. They destroyed the other team's abilities to make meals, right? So they would sabotage, and like that was their whole shtick. And it was hysterical to watch them just stealing plates from the other team and like setting their stuff on fire. And
wow, now you got me wanting to play that, because I never thought of having an I mean, if you any game for the most part, if it's competition based, you can put it in an esports. But
Sure.
Overcooked, I never thought about that. And then just coming in and just having them dress up in those aprons. I remember that's what we did a couple years ago at TechSF. There was, I forget what group it was, but they came in and they came in like some mobsters wearing some business suits and all that. I'm like, what is going on here? But they
Mhm.
meant business. I
Yeah.
mean, you create that vibe, you create that environment. That now I'm gonna have to play the game because saying
Yeah,
that you want to,
Overcooked is wild, man. Talk about just
I'm a state champion in Overcooked.
right,
That
and
is
it's
awesome.
ridiculous, but I would tell you, dude, of every esport, the best to watch is Overcooked. An intense Overcooked match is just wild. Because again, some of them are obviously super good and they can control the kitchen and they can get the food out, out the door. But so many after that other team won the state championship of just being absolutely destructive. It's just you get these opposing forces of I'm trying to get the meals correct out the door, and then you have this other team who's like I'm just here to like set your kitchen on fire. Good luck, and it's so much
Wow.
fun, so much fun.
You know what? I'm ready for you to put like a Just Dance in the competition to see what that
Well, yeah,
does.
listen, I mean, and that goes like even to what you just said with Just Dance. That goes to like a third level of kid is the average team size of our esports team is like 33 kids, right?
Yeah.
However, half of those kids don't even want to compete at all, right? So you got
Hmm.
the hyper competitive, you got like the meme around kids, and then we got kids who are just looking for a place just to be. They
For a
just
place
want to
to
be in the
be.
room.
Hmm.
And so that's then, when we talk about competition being the SEL piece, uh, the other thing that we have invested a ton of time in beyond creating that space for these kids that we really want the league to be about is the careers piece. So, those 16, 17 kids on a team who aren't competing, they're filling the role of broadcaster. They're filling the role of manager, statistician, photographer, videographer, graphic designer, and we have a ton of resources and curriculum
Yes, you
around
do.
having them fill those roles on the team. And so it's not uncommon when a team shows up to a state championship, they bring the team journalist with them, they bring the team photographer with them.
Oh
We
my
have
God.
yeah, dude, like we have kids on stage who are the coaches, right? Because we very strategically call the teacher hired by the school to run the program, we call that the club advisor. Because the coach is not always that adult. The coach can be a kid who knows the game as well. Or we've even had kids, whether it's due to physical disability or something like that, they may not be so great at playing the game, but
Mhm.
their understanding of the game and the strategy and the meta, right? That's the best coach for the job. And so we've seen we have great programs where they have two coaches. One is that adult who loves the game just as much, and then the other kid, is up there coaching. We've had state championships won by teams coached by students. So it's one of those things that as we create these opportunities, not just to be hyper competitive, not just to be meme around and have fun with your friends playing Overcooked and Mario Kart.
Mhm.
We've also created a space where if you just love gaming, like just being in that room is the place you want to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and that's just as important as anything else, right? So when you talk about like the competition just being like this little piece, and the reason why like we don't worry so much about the razzle dazzle is because to be a program of substance, a lot of it goes on behind the scenes. A lot of it goes into the day to day, and the day to day isn't sexy. But I think the problem with esports is, at least at the pro level, there's too much focus on the razzle dazzle. And the reason why basically every esports professional organization is failing is there's no substance.
Mhm.
There's no substance in their communities. There's no substance in the way that they do their programming. There's no substance in much of anything except the
Yeah.
merch. They spend a lot of time on merch.
Oh yeah. And and let me tell you, like you just touched on something, and I'm telling you, I'm saying this for the audience here because I keep telling people about you. You guys need to just get an Airbnb and go to see the competition because when I tell you what Chris is saying is so true. For admin that are out there, for teachers who are out there who are trying to figure out project based learning, and Chris, you are the reason why my dissertation is what it is about, because literally going into his competitions, you're not really talking with adults. For his group, that at least when I was there, Like they're just making sure that the building is still standing and it's not on fire. But like they're like, okay, there's adults that are like, okay, I need to talk to the manager. It's not a Chris Aviles that you're talking to. You're talking to somebody that's 16. I need to talk to somebody that's going to help me with registration. Oh, that's that sophomore over there. That's
Mhm.
this person. That is a high school. Okay, well, I need to talk to somebody that's in the broadcasting. Okay, that's that person over there. That's at ninth grade or a senior.
Mhm.
You are not talking to any adult. It's a whole student run project based um system ecosystem,
Yeah. Well,
and
I mean,
that
and that came from, again, one of the best things I've been happy to be wrong about was letting kids into the Discord, because what we saw is there was some student leaders in the Discord. If they weren't organizing their own tournaments, they were asking how they can help. And then obviously my
Mhm.
vice president and good friend and your good friend Regina Schaefer, she said, well, we should start, a student leadership group. So she went through and she skimmed, the top 25% of the kids and ushered them into, a different channel. And all of a sudden now, you know, they're helping run things at a state level. Or Doug Boersma, who's our head of production, and he also runs the Scranton School for the Deaf program.
he's awesome.
His deaf and hard of hearing students help train our students to produce the show, and so every element of Garden State Esports, our shows are run by students. And that's again, in when you talk about strategy, like we're trying to be a CTSO, right? I've already been told by the state of New Jersey I'm not allowed to be a CTSO, but I'm still going to act like one. So we have student leadership opportunities, we have student run events, we're working on student leadership conference and stuff like that. Um, but a lot of that again is just taking these kids' passion, and they were like, yeah, we would love to volunteer, we would love to do this stuff. And so even like we have a professional caster, Bo Prochoid Lamana, who we conned into joining us about 4 years ago. He runs his professional broadcasting class in Discord on Monday nights at 8 o'clock, and we have anywhere between 20 and 50 kids come out every Monday to voluntarily participate in what amounts to a public speaking class. And they're sending in clips of them casting, and they're giving each other feedback. And when they graduate that class, that means that they're allowed to cast for us on a state level. And then because we have such a college connection, and that's how then we try to get them, into places like Boise, where they, have meaningful programs that casters could be involved in, or our head of production, right? We can put them up and he can go to a place like Seton Hall, or she can go to a place like Seton Hall, and, where they invest in production just as much as they invest in esports, right? So, we really spend a lot of time thinking, how can we improve a kid's resume, improve a kid's college
Mhm.
opportunity, include, create, grow, and widen a kid's friends group. And that's where we spend so much of our time. That the razzle dazzle is nice, but it's not what
It's
keeps
not
people
needed.
coming back. It's
Yeah.
not it's not what gets them to want to start a college league. Or most of these kids don't want to play in a college league, that is not face to face. They rather just
Yeah.
play in ours. So it's one of those things where, um, and what's funny is we don't see what we're doing as revolutionary. Like what we're doing, I think, is common sense. Like, how do you
Yeah.
make a meaningful program that kids care about and they're invested in? And you look at, what did I see the other day? These kids getting selected to be like the head of like the agriculture CTSO or something like that. And like they're running on stage and they're crying because they got picked to be like the treasurer of like the national agriculture. But if you look at what that means, like that kid's set up for life, because the skills that he's going to learn by being part of that organization, and everything in that organization is student run, right? You know, I have a lot of issues with the CTSOs and the way that kind of stuff is handled, but the one thing you can't take away is like the hands-on experience that kids are getting. Like that's what we're trying to copy. So even
Yeah.
like the fact that, it takes 2 days now to set up for our event, they're so big. Well, I turned those 2 days into field trip, and got approved as a workforce partner for the Department of Ed. And now kids take field trips on Thursday and Friday to come build an esports arena with us and then the professionals that we bring in. And I can't tell you how many, spellcasters, one of our professional groups, we had Extron out the other day. we had Inshore Tech. We have these orgs that come out and help us. They're having conversations, and then next thing I know is like this kid's now working for that group or is interning for, you know, working with SHI because SHI was blown away by, the kid's ability and passion to speak to esports and stuff like that. So, I think esports in that aspect is something really interesting because it continues to be quite clear that we're not meeting the needs of kids in schools really anymore. Right. So how do we turn them from consumers to producers? How do we take their passion for gaming, and turn it into something meaningful? Right. And so that's my new role at Game Plan, is taking, students' passion for esports and gaming and turning into, learning how to make video games or make products and stuff like that. So I think when you look at esports as a vehicle for engagement and a vehicle for hands-on learning and project-based learning and stuff like that, I think that's where the secret sauce is. But the problem is the secret sauce doesn't bring in sponsors. The secret sauce doesn't, impress, endemic and non-endemic traditional brands. Everybody I've talked to, says, oh, what you do is cool, but we don't see where our ROI comes from, right? And so that's the downside. But it's the downside that I've come to accept because, to get these sponsorships from anybody who is looking for more than supporting the mission, I don't want to work with them, right? I'm not giving you the kids' email addresses. I'm not giving you their information. I'm not pushing products on them. And, I can't tell you how many times people are like, well, let's just get these kids onto our platform and they can try our service. We'll do a year free. They just have to enter their information. I'm not doing all that. Right.
Right. And then you lose sight of your program because it ends up being a beta program, like where you turn into just a beta program.
Yeah, I work for them. I'm their marketing team trying to get my kids to sign up for their product for, $10,000. And so never did it, won't do it, don't like it. We'll do it ourselves is our unofficial model.
Yeah. And as a result, I remember that day when I was there and you were just standing on the wall, you just looked like you were bummed out. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, you go, I have nothing to do. I'm like, what do you mean you have nothing? Do you remember you said that? You said, I have nothing. Regina said, I don't have anything. Like all the adults were like, I don't have anything to do because the kids were running everything. And it wasn't like,
that was the first event.
It was the very first event and it was running like clockwork.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, like I've never seen anything like this where it was talk to that cameraman and that's a student, talk to this person that was a student. And that's when I came back to Texas. For all where I was like, we're doing it wrong. Not I didn't really say it like that, but like, y'all, we have to really rethink what this is really going to look like for these kids. And especially like the way you and Regina and your team like look at things. Like I know esports is always talking about it's great for attendance, but like you just touched on a whole bunch of stuff that you go way beyond that because I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it out there. Like I think by now the attendance think we get it. We got it. Right. We got the t-shirt.
Right.
But you go way beyond that. And I want to know why was it important to you to go beyond just we just need to look at attendance and get people in, and how can districts look at the things that you're doing holistically to understand how impactful esports is and to make their program be even smarter and make those smart decisions like you're doing?
I mean, I think part of it too is a lot of what people are doing as an input should be an output. Improved attendance is an output. It's not an input, right? If you have something kids look forward to after school, they're going to show up more, right? So the input isn't attendance. Let's do attendance. That's the output. The input is how are you going to make it so kids don't want to leave the building? How are you going to make it so a kid doesn't want to be absent, right? When it was wrestling season, I never missed a day because I knew if I missed a day, I was dead. My coach would kill me. My coach would drive to my house and pick me up. You're sick, you could be sick in school. You could be sick at practice. You could come in. You know what I mean? So to me, I had that role model. I had the sport that I loved. You know, I was never really into school. I did well in school because I was afraid of my father, right? And so for me, it was the ability to hit people at school that I really enjoyed, right? So football, wrestling, stuff like that. But then when the spring came around and I didn't like any of the sports, you know, that's when I started to be like, well, I don't got to go to school today, or I'm just going to hang out, or I'm going to go, you know, skip and go to Great Adventure.
Did you really do
I'm
that?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I'm 20 minutes for Great Adventure, dude. Come on. We had the truancy officer chase us to Great Adventure. We'd be on a roller coaster. He'd be below us looking for us because he knew half my, you know, me and half my friends were always there. But
Wow.
it's, you know, so if you think about, and this could be anything, like what can you do in your school that is going to make it so that these kids don't want to leave? And a lot of times the answer from a school perspective is like, you know, your teacher's high-fiving kids as they walk into the building. You're, you know, telling kids, hey, I'm happy you're here today.
Mhm.
You know, your coach saying, like, listen, you're a major part of this team. You're not allowed to miss a day of school because we need you. Right. It's just that sense of belonging. It's that, you know, that fact that somebody's looking forward to me showing up today, or I have an important purpose in showing up. And it's not just to learn history. It's not just to write an essay. You know, it's I have a reason to be here. And that's because my team needs me. We're playing the, you know, the school rival today. You know, I mean, think about like, you know, what we're working on now, even more in Jersey. We think that our state championships do a really nice job of elevating students in the programs, and everybody gets to see what they're doing. Why, when Central Regional plays Lacey in their rival esports game, why is that not in the auditorium and people are coming to watch it? Right? Why aren't we moving the computers onto a stage in the auditorium, and why aren't we on the announcements and selling tickets and putting, you know, blasts out into the community and saying, you know, Central Lacey esports spectacular, like be there, don't miss it.
Yeah.
Right? Or why aren't rival schools scheduling esports matches during the day or something like that? Like, why can't that be a part of an assembly or something like that?
Yeah.
Right? The morning announcements, you know, walking in the pep rallies, right? So when you make somebody feel like they're part of the community, well, then obviously attendance is going to go up. It's really that simple, right? You know, when IT supports an esports program and gives it everything that it needs to be successful, and bends over backwards to check in, right? Because listen, you know, no internet doesn't shut down the football game. A computer that hasn't been updated doesn't shut down the football game, right? But it ruins esports. And you know, IT sometimes leaves at 3 o'clock, and then after school, like there's nobody there to help the esports team. So if there's like some type of IT issue and the teacher doesn't know how to fix it themselves, guess what? They're kind of screwed. So where's the school investing the time and money and the personnel to make sure that this match goes off like the Friday night football game? Because that's the other standard that we have in our league is if you wouldn't cancel the Friday night football game, don't think about, you know, canceling your esports match. You know, the hoops that I've seen, I can only imagine what it's like in Texas, the high school football capital of the world.
Oh,
I mean, you've got
don't
billion-dollar high
don't
school
do
stadiums.
don't do it. Don't do it.
You got billion-dollar high school football stadiums for a
Mhm.
sport that's played for a third of a school year.
Mhm.
Where's that same energy for the other stuff that kids love?
Mhm.
Right. And so for me, right, stop worrying about attendance and how are you making these kids feel special and wanted and seen and valued. Right. When's the last time that an administrator went to an esports match? When's the last time that the whole admin team showed up? When's the last time the yearbook photo people came and took pictures of an esports match or even included them in the yearbook? So
Okay.
that's the
Okay.
stuff, right, that I'm trying to focus on now. And again, a lot of that's data driven, right? Some of our recent surveys over the last probably 2 years when I started asking questions about it is there's a very disproportionate amount of support for esports programs within their own school, right? You have athletic directors who are actively campaigning to shut down esports programs because it's not a sport, right, is what they're saying. Or, they're doing everything in their power to not give out a varsity letter because it's not a sport. How do you think that makes those kids feel, right? So that's
An
the other
adult is
thing.
already telling I don't mean to cut you off, but like
Yeah,
their peers are already telling them that you don't belong in a certain group,
sure.
and adults are now saying, "Oh, well, now you don't belong." Like
Hmm.
that's like punching them in the gut and in the face. Like
Right,
you don't belong. Like what's it's almost like, well, what's the big deal? And it's always, well, we it's there's no rhyme or reason. It's like, oh, it's just never been like that. Well, why not change it? Like what what is it gonna hurt? And my quote I always say is it gonna cost you money? Is it gonna affect the roof over your head? Like what? Tell me what the true harm is. Please educate me as
right.
to I definitely want to know. You
Right,
know.
but and the money argument always kills me, right? Especially after we released our own attendance report and showed that kids who play in our league show up to school more.
Mhm.
We're not like most other states that have average daily attendance, and we in New Jersey do not withhold money when a kid doesn't show up to school. But that athletic director, who's it's hard not to curse, who's not supporting esports, right? $50 for a letter costs nothing to be on the morning announcements, costs nothing to be excited for kids. But if that kid doesn't show up because you don't have the program, you don't support the program, you're going to lose average daily attendance, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's insane to me. And my favorite athletic director here in New Jersey is a guy by the name of John Germano. I worked for him for 10 years over at Barnegat High School. And he always said, I am in the business of making kids feel special. And if you go, he's always tweeting, he's always showing up to matches, he's always taking pic. Guy's fantastic, right? Because he realizes his job is to be the head cheerleader. And so what I
Yeah.
love is you go to his Twitter and he's wishing the esports team good luck in their matches. He's updating the Twitterverse on the results of the matches of the esports team, but not everybody treats them as like a meaningful program. So they all want this attendance bump, and they all want kids to be in school, and even schools that take the leap and have an esports program, jerseys is too much. Morning announcements, that's too much. Having them walk in the same pep rally as
That's
the athletic teams,
that's too
that's
many
too much.
students.
That's too much. That's I mean, hey, go play esports, have your club over here. We're not going to literally do anything to promote it, help you out, make you feel like part of the school. You're not allowed in the pep rally, and we're not going to do something special. When you're playing the rival, we're not going to pay IT extra to move 12 computers to the auditorium to play in front of a crowd. And we're not going to market it. We're not going to put it on social media to get the parents and the kids to come out. But then you see what it could be. Like I always get, hype when I see the school in Michigan. I know I'm from wrestling. I forget what they're, but you ever see like they have the Rocket League match
Mhm.
during the day and it's packed and it's just the kids are going nuts. There's, it looks like there's thousands of kids. Um, watching this Rocket League match. I mean, talk about having those kids feel important. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, oh man, look at the way like my school is showing up for the Rocket League team. Like I would totally join that team in the off season, or I like Rocket League. Like I really want to be a part of this thing.
Yeah.
So, it's that's the thing that gets me about attendance is like either A, we want esports to improve attendance, or we have esports and we want to see better attendance, but you're not willing, listen, like I said, I coach football, dude. I know what it costs to recondition a helmet and recondition shoulder pads. I know how
Oh,
much it costs to
absolutely.
maintain an athletic field. And you know, it's one of those things where people don't realize if you have a really well run, rewarding esports program, it's probably a money maker, just like football. Because
Oh,
most
yeah.
people most people may or not realize that football is the only money maker in athletics. Sometimes boys basketball, but it's football. Everything else is a money loser,
Mhm.
right? Esports, because kids show up and because you're tapping into a kid that's been kind of left out, right? If you're in a state that has average daily attendance and you're getting more esports kids to show up to school more often, your esports program is making money.
Yeah.
So
In
don't tell me
more
the
ways than
computers are
one.
Right. Don't tell me the computers are too expensive when I know what it costs to recondition, football helmets and shoulder pads a season every 3 years.
Especially if and don't get me started when you're at the district level and you know where that money's going. I'm gonna be quiet, but I know where that money's going. Like, my daddy, my dad used to say like, "Oh, your district." When I was little, oh, they got money. I'm like, and I remember telling me that when I was 16. I'm like, oh, I what? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
like,
I forget who said it, but who says, show me your checkbook or show me your bank account, I'll show you what you care about, right? Show me how you're spending money, I'll show what you care about.
oh yeah, and like you just brought up something that reminded me of like being in my band days, and um, it wasn't. Yeah, there was money being put in, but there was a lot of work us kids had to do to just put on those performances and be a part of something that was just really super special. And no, we didn't we weren't in the pep rallies like to walk across. We were part of the pep rallies playing and all that
Sure.
kind of stuff. But like to win state and to be a part of these championships, and sometimes there were times when like certain sports teams didn't do so well, but the band was the best thing in the state. you know we in the nation. Sometimes at my time that my band was, but like it was big news. And when we were on the news, it was a community thing. It wasn't so much an attendance thing. At least I don't know, I was an adult back then, obviously, but it was such a community driven program, and you were a part of something. And it just even reminded, like, we had a reunion, like, I think it was like months ago. All these 40-plus-year-old people coming and going back into the band hall and just reminiscing on what it was like to be a part of a community. And I will never forget Philip Geiger, if he's listening. Like, there's a new building that's there, and I'm misquoting his words, but he said it was because of you guys why this new theater exists, because of what you set, that foundation. Obviously this theater wasn't here, but because of the foundation that you kids said, this 40-year-old person and up, that generation of students is why we have this building for this new generation. And I think what you're saying is what's missing in what administration and organizations are not thinking about. Esports and gaming is such a powerful tool to lay that groundwork and foundation. And I think people want to see it like right then and there. They want to see the newest computers and all that flash and stuff like right then, so the arenas can happen so fast. But it doesn't work like that. You have to build it. And your original group is not going to see it later. You probably see it when you go to the reunion and you see this nice fancy little building. That's when it's supposed to happen. You grind and you grind like you've been doing. You've been grinding and you're still grinding, but you have a lot more results because of that. And every time I see something come out in a tweet or in a LinkedIn, damn, I'm cussing. But damn, look at what he's doing. It's because you're putting the work into it. And people don't see, like, I'm gonna cuss. I'm sorry. Like Chris and his team, GSE, they work their ass off because they really care about the program. Not saying that nobody else doesn't care about the program, but it's the data they put behind it. I'm not even talking about money, but the curriculum they put behind it, the program they put behind it. They want to make sure that things are lasting. You talk about like now it's their varsity. I forget the word you said, but they're recognized as a varsity team. We have a pipeline. All of these things that takes work. And I know a lot of your team members are doing it out of the kindness of their heart. I don't know if they're getting paid or not. And you don't have to tell me if they are or they're not. But a lot of them probably are doing it out of the kindness of their heart because they see something that is of value to not just the students but a community. That's just, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. I haven't ranted all week, but it's what I see from you. Um, I want to rewind because I want to make sure that I have this question because you did mention IT. And I have this question, especially for my IT folks. because I did watch a video and I'm like, okay, I need to speak for my IT folks. But I know you said at one point, like, IT departments can be the biggest barrier, aside from the athletic department, but that they can be the biggest barrier to esports. How has that changed since you started GSE and esports? And what advice do you offer schools to overcome these technical misconceptions and develop safe and sustainable programs?
Yeah, I mean, with the athletic departments, we're approved as a varsity activity in the same way that band and cheerleading are in the state of New Jersey. We are very strategic in not wanting to be a sport because we don't want to be overseen by the State Athletic Association, and we don't want to have to deal with athletic directors, right? So the athletic directors that we do have supporting us are the best because they're supporting us even though they don't have to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's one thing. But when it comes to the number one derailer of programs easily in the state of New Jersey, and I would have to imagine it's probably nationwide, it's IT departments. And, I will say that I believe most IT departments are operating out of an abundance of caution, and they're, trying to move forward in a way that is going to, keep the district safe. But I think that when we work with students in any capacity, whether it's a teacher, whether it's IT, I feel like we all have to be coming from a place of how do I get to yes? How do I make it happen? And I can tell you now, again, having half the schools in New Jersey, we've not had a single IT issue once a program has launched. And that, by what I mean like that, is nobody's been held ransom, nobody's school network is melted down, nothing's caught on fire, nobody has, had their files stolen or their student information system deleted. I'm not sure what they think is going to happen because my background is not IT, but from those on my team that have an IT background, and now, we're partnering with a couple organizations to support this aspect of our mission, right? If they want to do it, they will do it. And if they don't want to do it, they won't do it. And, I have found one of the best things I could do in my capacity is basically speak truth to IT sometimes, right? So I generally invite or encourage when I'm talking to administrators or whatever, hey, bring your head of IT. Or if you go to our page, like it says, one of the first conversations or stakeholders you need to bring in is it's IT. And again, I think that has been an issue in the past where programs have gotten excited about esports and they're doing all these things, but nobody talked to IT about it.
Okay.
And then on the other hand is, we have found that IT will say no until you show another district who's doing it, especially if that IT person will advocate for it. So in New Jersey, we're partnering with, we have a new organization here called NJETA, and it's the New Jersey, basically IT association. It's like a new, I'll call it a union, but I'm sure it's not necessarily that right phrasing, but it's an association of IT professionals that work in schools. And so we've partnered with them, and through our partnership with Rutgers, we're launching esports for the IT professional. And so a lot of it is, we hope, is just training and understanding, number one, the ports that you need opened are already open because you have all kinds of ed tech, and guess what? They all use the same ports anyway. Getting to understand that, the reason your Switch won't work on a school network, Nintendo Switch, is because it's a peer-to-peer connection. And when that information goes out, it comes back different than it, went out, and now it's being blocked. And so here's the change you have to make. Or, I would imagine it's probably a little bit more prominent in Texas than it is in New Jersey, but we're starting to see a lot of schools outsourcing IT to third parties. And third parties, are basically just not interested in supporting it, and are telling schools it's not in their best interest to allow it. So, we've had conversations with like Cisco Meraki and getting them to understand and having to explain to them, like, we jump on a call, like the school will like do a 3-party call with our IT people at Garden State Esports and, the third party IT people. The administrator says, yeah, we want esports. We want to, make it happen. And then our IT people are explaining to their IT people what they need to do. Because where I think some of the stuff that we're hearing, because again, we keep all this data, we have an IT guide and stuff like that. A lot of what used to be capable and done by IT folks in the school, we're learning that like those tools and the buttons and the switches that need to get flipped all now exist right on the other side, right? So a
Mm,
lot of times, like the content filtering, schools don't have the ability to change their own content filter. They have to call the third party people and
mm,
ask them to change the content filtering for them, right? So a lot of times, like the IT professionals in schools don't even have the ability to control their own network, right? So
mm.
they have to ask somebody else to do it for them. So it's almost like, again, it's like we see all the time in education is let's hire these professionals and then give them 75% of what they need to be successful. Hey, we're going to
Mm.
hire you to run a school network, and we want you to start esports, but all a good portion of that power has been outsourced to like the third party,
Okay.
web filter that we use, stuff like that.
And you led up to something because back when I was in it, like I started to change my tune and I don't want to misquote any of my IT people, but I started to change the conversation when I started to talk about esports, and I had a couple of IT people pull me aside, and they're like, "Look, it's not it's not a no. This is where they were coming from.
Mhm.
They were saying it's not a no. It's about they were like, Bradford, let me tell you something. Every day is a new initiative. If it's a
Right.
if it's an educator or admin that sees something new at the ISTs, at the FETCs, online or whatever, they are coming to us wanting to just flip a switch and turn it on.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, okay. And it's they and I'm just exaggerating here, but they'll say something like, there's only like this many of us. You think there's like this many of us in the IT department, but there's only like this many of us.
Mhm.
And I go, okay, we are concerned about the privacy and all that stuff, but like they always tell us we are so overwhelmed because if you say, okay, IT Chris, we want to do esports, we are gung ho about it. And I've had people, when I worked at SHI, yeah, they would pull it and tell me, um, we want to do it, but then who do we pass this on to? Because the next project is behind us.
Mhm.
There's always going to be something next. And I went, oh, okay, it's about the conversation. Someone was like, it's not a no, it's about what you were just saying. Like I do want to see how other schools are doing it, but I also want to know like who can I make sure that I pass this on to keep running it because I'm having to go out and do other projects and this and this and this and this. I went, okay, that's a real issue because they'll tell me we not Best Buy. But were you getting some of those conversations? And this was back when I was in it, and they were just telling me, they were even telling me like we're just coming out of COVID, and we're still trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, oh
Right.
my god.
No, and
So were
listen,
you
just
were
like
you getting some of that?
yeah, but to me, it's like everybody who works in education, from the teachers to the admins to the IT professionals, everybody is overworked, underpaid, has more projects than they have time and energy to support. And it's like when I was a teacher, I didn't do anything until I was asked to do it 3 times. Because if they asked me to do it three
I remember
times,
you
then I
said
knew,
that.
right, then I know it's actually serious. So every new initiative that's dropped on a teacher, dropped on an IT person, I understand. But that's also, though, why I go back to that guiding principle of like, listen, we gotta work toward yes, and so if an esports program, look, I get it, like logging Chromebooks and fixing Chromebooks and putting out all those fires, it's a ton of work. And but when we look at what the alternative is leaving a percentage of kids, putting them back on the bus, sending them back home, not giving them a reason to come to school. Listen, at the end of the day, from being a teacher, you bend over backwards for these kids. You do
Yeah.
things, my wife is going to be up until midnight tonight putting together an exciting lesson for the kids because she believes that this is what those kids deserve, is they deserve an exciting, engaging lesson. So, it's another initiative, it's another thing, absolutely. But this thing, I think, is, important. And I think that it's one of those things where we have to make time and we have to uh, fight for things that are important. And, we also, like I said, between the esports for the IT professional course that we're putting together, the IT guide that we have, we try to make it really simple,
Yeah.
and we try to make it as simple as possible. We have everything. We have a network of, experts that can talk to, whoever needs to better understand, little things like understanding, when your content filter, there's an update, it usually resets all like your ports, and that's why the game doesn't work all of a sudden, and that kind of thing. I mean, we do our best to make it easy, because we know, just like everybody else, IT folks are overworked and they got a million things to do and are pulled a million different ways. But when has that ever been an excuse to not do what's best for kids?
I agree 100%. And I like that you address those concerns head on. And I think that's what makes your program such sustainable. Things like, well, this is an IT issue. So, okay, well, let's make a program out of that. We're not just saying, okay, well, we're going to bring, yes, we're bringing so and so to come in and represent IT, but we're also going to make this a program because we do see that this is a district wide issue. And we want to be able to address it by talking about these certain things to make school leaders feel comfortable and have those critical conversations, because yes, you can
Right.
still have these things.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And like I said, when we engage any new school or district who wants to bring esports, and we have a call with them at any point, from the first piece of outreach we do is, please, if you can, bring somebody from IT, because we want everybody on the same page. We don't want any surprises, because ultimately what happens is, when there's unsupportive IT or surprises, it leads to forfeits, right? Because the network's not ready. We see it all the time with new schools, and we encourage them to do a scrim or a connection test or something like that. They don't do it. They go to play and they're shocked that it doesn't work, and it's 3 o'clock and there's no IT people to help them. So they have to, forfeit or reschedule, right? So in our eyes, again, when you go to the foundational stuff, is rule number one at Garden State Esports is no forfeits. So involving IT, creating the course, doing all that stuff is all, at the end of the day, no forfeits. And so, if we stay locked in and hyper focused on that mission, that's where, a lot of the stuff comes from. So no forfeits, because nothing's worse, dude. Dude, nothing's worse than you got two schools waiting to compete. Everybody's excited. They've been looking forward for the match all week, right? Because they play once a week, and they go to log in, cannot connect. The teachers in the room generally don't have the power, or if they or have the knowledge to fix the problem themselves. They can't reset a network, they can't change a filter, they can't do much of anything except restart the computer, and sometimes they don't even have the admin password to get back into the computer. So you now have two schools with, on average, 66 disappointed kids sitting there, and then we got to do a reschedule, and that's annoying.
Okay, so you've been in that tournament. So what do you do in that situation? Since you said there's no forfeit, I know that's happened to you. So what do you do? Like, what's the protocol? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I mean, of recently, because we have invested more into our live events, and we now have every round of our playoffs played live at the championships, right? So we call it the championships. Because we have 16 teams all coming and playing that whole tournament that day. We were able to bake in a week of redos, a week of reschedules, basically. So if there is a technical issue or something like that, they have an extra week in the season, or some other mutually agreeable time to reschedule. But
okay, got it. It's a reschedule, so it's not a forfeit. So we gonna come back and we're gonna revisit this.
Right. But it's one of those things, though, where very quickly, if IT again is busy, unresponsive, or like we have all the large school district in Jersey, IT, you talk about being stretched thin when you're working in Newark and you're working in Trenton, you serve in 16 high schools if you're in Jersey City. And obviously instructional day stuff is more important than esports, which I can agree with and understand. But, if a tech issue happens on a Tuesday, if it's not solved by the next Tuesday, or if they're playing, sometimes they're playing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If it's not solved by Wednesday the next day, or Tuesday of next week, you're still in the same boat. And now you have 2 reschedules. Now you have 3 reschedules. Like, you have the cascading issue until IT gets involved. So I would rather have them involved in the beginning and understand who they can contact from our team and see the IT guide and know that we have the support of School Boards Association, the DOE, like, anybody who you would be afraid of being upset with you for bringing esports to your school. Like, we partner with all of them. So, you have the support, you have the knowledge base, you have the connections, you have everything that you need to be successful. We just hope that you can find the time to help be successful, help make the program, what it is.
It's about bringing everyone to the table,
right.
even if they're guarded. Like, like I think in our ed tech space, in our esports space, we're used to hearing that no. So
Right.
yeah, bringing them to the table.
Yeah.
Last question, because we've talked a good while. I think this is a good wrap up because we've touched on it in every other question, but just for the audience to know, like, for you and your team at GSE, how do you help districts and even schools out of state? Because I know you talk to schools out of state. How do you turn them how do you make their esports programs, how do you turn them into a true career pipeline rather than just it's a competition program?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, to have an esports program, it starts with competition. You have to have something to compete in, right? Because if you're not competing, you have no match. If you have no match, you have nothing to broadcast. You have nothing to broadcast. You have nothing to promote. You have nothing to promote. You have nothing to market, right? So it does kind of start with that piece, but it's also understanding. Number one, a lot of it goes to getting the teacher to be confident that they don't have to be the expert, right? Because think about, like, you got the games going on, now you want broadcasting, you want Twitch streaming. Listen, the average teacher doesn't know how to do all that stuff. So it's, number one, helping them or empowering them to feel confident that they can do it, whether it's through trusting the kids or learning a little bit or coming to a workshop or trying something. Because this is one of those areas where kids tend to know more than teachers. They know how to stream to Twitch and stuff like that. And a lot of these kids, they're excited to do it. And again, we've never had an issue, when it came to streaming or anything like that. And then I think the other piece is understanding that there is a very real correlation between kids who love gaming and esports and kids who love STEM, right? Kids who like to play games generally have an interest in learning how to make games. So it's also then, what we're seeing and trying to do in Jersey, and that's through also, with Game Plan, is these computers, these devices are hopefully not only being used after school, right? If you're going to have 12 gaming PCs for your esports program, we're hoping that they're used during the day to teach game design or teach CAD or teach, something like that. And so, I'll tell you what I think is going to be the biggest catalyst, is I'm absolutely thrilled with the new CTE clusters, especially arts, entertainment, and design. Right? I'm just so happy with these clusters. The fact that they finally got rid of STEM, because we all knew STEM was like a 10-year-old buzzword, and they broke it up and they created all these different, CTE pathways. But now there's also cross cuts, and it shows what pathway is most likely to work with another pathway and stuff like that. Because when you look at arts, entertainment, and design, and you think about how schools went from radio to TV in the 90s, and we all stopped at morning announcements, but then you realize, like, Unreal Engine exists and what that product is doing for, movies and TV and media and interactive 3D. And I mean, it's, that new arts, entertainment, and design cluster, to me, looks like it did when I was in high school in the early 2000s. So in New Jersey, as we have, Netflix is coming and building the largest Hollywood studio outside of Hollywood is now in New Jersey. We're the friendliest film and digital media state in the United States right now. They just filmed Happy Gilmore 2 here and brought in $150 million, into New Jersey through that process. We really see esports as the arts, entertainment, and design workforce for CTE. And so whether it's game design, which falls under digital, digital creations. I forget what it's officially called, but it has lighting and sound technology. It has broadcasting and production. There's all in that cluster. And when you think about esports, right? The other thing that I'm hoping is people see this as this hands-on project-based thing.
Yep.
Cool. Hey, we're going to have an esports match. Well, what if we produced it? We streamed it. That means we have to have the sound. We have to have the lighting. We have to have the graphics, the video package, hopefully, that goes along with it, the highlights done after. We share it on, social media. We invite people to come watch the match. We charge $5. That $50, $100 that we make every couple of weeks is going to go toward jerseys. We're going to have the kids design the jerseys. We're going to have them source the jerseys and make the phone calls. We're going to have the kids reach out to sponsors to put the sponsors on the jerseys so we can afford a banquet.
Almost everything I literally did this week, aside from all the extra stuff that you said. Right. Literally.
Right.
Literally.
Right. So, to me, there's a lot of, again, you talk about that razzle dazzle versus substance. There's no reason why we can't have student casters calling a basketball game or calling a football game for whatever reason we don't have it. Mm-hmm. Right. But it becomes seemingly a lot more natural to, broadcast the esports match, to stream the esports match, because that's, whether it's because kids are on Twitch or whatever the case may be. But to me, it's saying, okay, we have this thing that's going to happen. How can we build this cool ecosystem around this thing that's going to happen? So, my favorite schools in New Jersey are the ones that started streaming the esports matches, but now all of a sudden that stream team is also doing the football game, is also doing the band concert, is also doing, the talent show, right? And so to me, like, we have schools in New Jersey now, again, talking to the king of high school football over there in Texas.
Not me. Listen, I'm
not. You know what I mean? Like, it's you got somebody at booth, and that's a first down. Like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, you could tune into Twitch and you can hear the kids talking about the players and telling the stories and what the records of the team are? You know what I mean? Like, this is America. Like, storytelling is what drives a lot of our sports dramas. So let's get that into high school. And, when Lacey's playing Central Regional, like, I want to hear about, like, the last 20-year history of that matchup and, who's playing and, who's the key injuries and, what we see in traditional sports. Like, the NFL has 3 hours of, more content about the football game than the actual football game. Let's see who's in, who's out, who's going to be here. Is Taylor Swift coming to the game or not? How's that going to affect Travis Kelce? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we love all, like, that storytelling. It's such a huge industry. We do very little of it in schools.
And just think about it, people are already doing that when they're on TikTok or whatever. When they're going to the football games, they're just pulling their phones out and they look at that great play and they're automatically posting that, or they're going live and just doing whatever. It's already there. I mean, imagine we're paying, like, I forget how much it costs to go to a football game now, because I used to go in for free all the time because I was in a band. But, like, imagine now where, okay, I'm just going to turn on Twitch or I want to turn on TikTok Live and I'm going to make my own commentary as this team is going to that team. Like, there are a few schools that do this. Shout out to Avon Bateman. He was in Texas with me. He does that on Twitch.
Love that.
He does that, and he does it in his. I forget what his he has a character that he does. I think I might be giving him away, but like he used to do that, and I'm like, that's so cool. Like, taking it from that level, and it's all about meeting other people when they can't be available to be in that space. So it goes beyond just, this is esports, but, like, okay, you're right, we can do this for theater. We can do this for football. We can do this for basketball. I don't know what the legalities are. I can't, I don't want to touch that, but, like, just, hey, let's just do it. Turn the camera on and make our own comments and make our own posts. Why not? No, but who's gonna stop us? Now I know music people say, like, please don't record on the phones. I know they do say that in concerts. They do say that. Not at the football game.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, I imagine a sports broadcasting class where the assignment each week are the students and the production team creating the graphics and gathering the information and
Can you
putting together the
imagine?
run of
Yeah.
show. You know what I mean? Like that's what I imagine. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. I know that we do have some schools that are, launching our esports curriculum during the day, and that's a lot of what it is. Is hey, you're going to play on Tuesday. Here's all the stuff that you're going to do leading up to this match on Tuesday. You're going to do the marketing for the event. You're going to, reach out to the other team, and you're going to get the information about the players. You're going to you're going to create a pre-show. We even see this at our colleges. Our colleges now are doing like a pardon the interruption, talking 2 minutes about stuff going on in our esports league at the college level. And so that's like part of the half-hour pre-show that leads into the match, but it's all done by different people. The casters are different than the ones in the pre-show. We have schools and colleges that throw to like the sideline reporter and, coach, what do you think about the match? Because in esports, it's typically frowned upon to coach during the action, right? You can coach during timeouts and stuff like. So that coach is just sitting there chilling, like let's mic up a coach, or let's stick a mic in his face and say, hey, how do you think the team's doing? Like, what do you think about the match right now? But to me, is look at all that stuff that not only can kids add to their resume, they can clip it up and they can show people what they have done. Right. The girl who has produced our show for the last 4 years, our head of production, is Zoe. Zoe started as a freshman. She's now a senior this year. Listen, her portfolio,
I was about to ask
they
that.
might as well just give her a college degree now, because she's going to go into
that.
these programs. She's a VMix wizard. She does runs of show. She's on the headset. She's, overseeing a team of 15 other kids. And then the adults that work on that team, like my professional sound guy, Corey, and they all take commands from her. I'm not allowed to talk without her permission. I have to give her a 2-minute warning before I even touch a microphone, because she's got to line up all the cameras. And you know me, like
It's
I
too
just
much.
get up.
It's too
I
much
get up
going on.
randomly. Yeah, no, and that's it. She goes, if you deviate from my run of show, like you have to get permission.
Ooh.
And what's cool is, like, when she was a freshman, she never would have said that. Now that, junior and senior year, she's like, Chris, you're not allowed to touch the mic without asking me. And she's like 18 years old. I'm like, yes, Zoe, absolutely. So whatever you say, you are in charge. She's the boss. So,
What is she going to school for?
Production.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's got, I think, 3 different full ride offers, because obviously I wrote as many letters as I could and connected whatever, and she doesn't even need my help, because her portfolio is, 4 years of her running the entire state level stuff. I mean, she's an absolute wizard. And that's not even me saying it, because I don't know anything about VMix. The professionals who sit at the table, like me, go, well, we have nothing to do because she's doing everything.
VMix ain't no joke.
Now, listen, I haven't installed it on my computer. I opened it and I said, not right now. And I haven't touched it in 6 months. But meanwhile, like she makes fun of me that I don't know how to use it yet. She's like, it's easy.
Because she got in there and she did. I'm curious to see her portfolio. Like, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, kids have to put their stuff in their portfolio. Mm-hmm. Okay, we are way over time, and I had other questions, but we talk. When we talk, we talk. And I love your spirit. I love everything that you're doing. I know you got more stuff that's coming down the pipe that we haven't even thought of. But I want to know, how can if people want to reach out to you for anything, where can they go? What can they
do? Chris at gsesports.org. Just shoot me an email. I stay off social media now. There ain't no point. It's a cesspool. Just email me.
That's a conversation for after the show. So say it again. I'm sorry. Where can we contact you again?
Chris at gsesports.org.
No social media, and then at all, and also go to their website. Is it
gsesports.org?
Awesome. Chris, it was so awesome to have you here. Of course, I could talk your ear off all day, all night long, but I do gotta close this out because I know people gotta go to school and go to work tomorrow. So everybody else, I'm on social media. You can still make sure you like and follow and subscribe at any of the platforms that you're interested in. Just go to tinkertechedu.com and you can like and follow, subscribe on your favorite social media platforms. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another exciting guest.
It's Bradford Harris, also known as EdTech Tinker across your social media channels. Thanks for tuning in and staying connected. Whether you're here for the first time or returning, welcome. I'm passionate about digital learning, STEM, esports, gaming, and emerging technology. And I'm here to help you make an impact using digital tools and future-ready strategies. Through my work with TinkerTech EDU, I help educators, professionals, and organizations design engaging learning experiences, build career pathways, and scale innovation. From instructional design and online course development to digital fluency workshops and career branding services, I've got you covered. Do you need help with your resume, social or website profiles, or launching a course? Want to level up your skills or your team's tech strategy? Let's talk. You can quickly explore all my services and connect with me easily at linkapp.com/edtechtinker. Whether it's Twitch, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, or my official site at tinkertechedu.com, I'm just a click away. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to stay in the loop with live streams, on-demand content, and the latest updates. Turn on your notifications so you never miss what's happening in the world of digital learning and emerging technology. I go live at least twice a month, bringing you fresh, tailored content every time, from gaming and education to tech tool tutorials to professional growth strategies. Did you miss a stream? No worries. You can catch the highlight reels and full replays anytime on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@edtechtinker. And hey, you got a question, you want to collaborate, or are looking for presentations, consulting, or professional development sessions, virtual or in person, just reach out. Let's connect and create something meaningful starting today. Thanks again for being part of this journey, and I'll see you next time.
I had the heat on. It's cold when I got down here. Now it's hot.
I had to turn my fan on. I think I could take off this jacket. Woo, man! Oh my god! Let's talk about this social media thing. We're not on record yet. You say you quit?
Yeah, I'm done.
Why are you done?
It just there's no point.
It's trash.
I always liked it. I only liked it really for business anyway. I post some stuff for GSE, or I have student interns who do it. Elon Musk killed Twitter. I don't have anything to promote anyway. Nobody cares about my opinion. I don't care about anybody else's opinion.
Wow. I feel you.
I can't stand it. LinkedIn. I got to be on LinkedIn because I got to repost game plan stuff. But like everybody's like AI posts about being experts, and they all very clear. You ever notice like they all like, I can't believe it is what I said when I thought to myself, we really need to change the way we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I don't know, man. Everybody's so full of shit.
It's I have a love-hate relationship with it, because I got to be on there for all this branding stuff that I'm doing, but like I don't want to be on there because it's all the drama. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna post about like when I helping a client, and I'm helping her rebrand her stuff. I was telling her like I'm just now using my Facebook, but don't get it twisted. It's about promoting what I'm trying to do to consult. That's all I'm doing. Like, don't try to message me, because you're not gonna get a response back unless you want my business. So
Right.
that's pretty much it. But yeah, it does get wild.
It seems exhausting. I couldn't imagine.
But it's a fucking job. I don't mean to cuss. It's a job. I mean, we always knew that, but I'm like, now that
Right.
I'm really getting into it, I'm like, dude, this is a lot of freaking work with little to no pay.
Right. And in the age of like everybody just reposting stuff like that they create in AI, like I feel like there's something to being like the anti-expert where like you just don't do AI and you don't give a shit like what people think and like you just do you versus like, you know, technology.